Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving headfirst into a world that, let's be honest, almost every parent knows intimately. We're talking about the bright, loud, and way more complicated than you'd think universe of kids' cartoons.
And you know, this question right here, this is from Reddit, but it could be from any parent's group chat anywhere. It's that universal question that kicks off the big hunt for the perfect show. You know the one. It's got to be fun, it's got to be educational, and yet maybe it'll give you just enough time to drink your coffee while it's still hot.
All right, so we're going to unpack this whole search. We'll look at what we as parents are actually hoping to get out of these shows. Then we'll cover the standard advice everyone gives. But then, and this is where it gets really juicy, we're going to hit it with a reality check from actual science and, you guessed it, the billion-dollar industry behind it all.
Because let's face it, when we're scrolling through options, we're not just looking for a digital babysitter, are we? We've got a whole checklist. We want them to pick up some letters, maybe learn how to share, and, this is a big one, we actually want them to like it. The dream is that screen time can be good time.
And because this is such a common struggle, this sort of unofficial parents' playbook has popped up. It's basically a set of expert tips on how to choose the right stuff for your kid to watch.
And the playbook itself? It's actually pretty simple. Experts say to follow these 4 steps. First, is it even for their age group? Second, what's the message? Is it teaching good stuff? Third, check the pacing. Is it super hyper or is it calm? And last, just look at the overall style, the art, the music, the whole vibe.
And this advice gets really specific. You know, for the little ones, it's all about keeping it simple. Slow stories, cute characters. Then for the preschool crowd, you start looking for letters and numbers. And for the older kids, well, that's when you can get into more complex stories. It all lines up. It seems to make total sense.
Okay, but here's the million-dollar question, right? Does all this effort actually pay off? If we follow the playbook and pick the good show, does it really deliver the results we want? This is where things start to get complicated.
Yeah, because when scientists actually put these theories to the test, the answers they get are, well, they're not so black and white. So let's dive into a couple of really eye-opening studies that kind of turn this whole thing on its head.
So get this. In one experiment, researchers took a bunch of 4-year-olds and had them watch just 9 minutes of TV. Some of them watched a super popular, really fast-paced cartoon. You know the type, scenes changing every 11 seconds. Another group watched a much slower educational show where things were a lot calmer, a new scene only every 34 seconds. And then there was a third group that just got to draw. That was the control. So what happened right after they watched? It's pretty wild. They gave the kids some tests that measure something called executive function. And look at these results. The kids who watched that fast-paced show, they did way worse than the kids who watched the slow show or the kids who were just drawing. We're talking about a direct, immediate hit to their self-control and focus.
And I know executive function sounds like a fancy term, but it's not some abstract thing. It's literally the brain power we use to pay attention, to manage our feelings, to follow instructions. I mean, these are the absolute building blocks for doing well in school and, honestly, in life.
Okay, so maybe super fast pacing is a problem. But what about the message? The actual content of the show? I mean, a cartoon that's all about teaching kids to be kind and to share, that's gotta be a win, right? It just has to help.
Well, let's look at another study that asks that very question. Researchers measured what they call prosocial intentions, which is just a sciencey way of saying how willing are kids to be nice and helpful. Then they split them up. One group watched a cartoon with a positive message, another watched something totally neutral, and a third watched a show with some mean behavior. Then they measured those helpful intentions again.
And the result was, honestly, it's a shocker. They found a decrease in helpfulness across all 3 groups. I'm going to say that again. Even the kids who watched the nice, friendly, let's all share cartoon were actually a little less likely to want to be helpful right after they finish watching. Wild.
So what does that even mean? Well, this one study points to something pretty deep. It suggests that just the act of sitting and passively watching a screen might have its own powerful effect, an effect that can sometimes be stronger than the actual message of the show. So it's not just what they watch, but the very fact that they're watching.
Okay, so let's throw one more giant wrench into all of this. The money, the business side of things. Because while we're all at home worrying about our kids' brain development, the companies making these cartoons, well, they have a slightly different set of priorities.
Make no mistake, kids' TV is not a small-time operation. It is a massive, multi-billion-dollar global business. I mean, look at this number, $1.4 billion. That's the projected revenue this year for content from just one single country. The amount of money on the table here is just staggering. And for the streaming giants, what does success look like? It's not about how many letters your kid learns. It's about subscribers. It's about growth. A single hit movie can pull in 50,000 new subscribers, just like that. That's the number they care about. That's the bottom line.
So when you put it all together, the main goal for the industry is pretty clear. Make a hit. Create something that grabs eyeballs, gets everyone talking, and brings in those sweet, sweet subscription fees. And yeah, that goal of making a smash hit isn't always going to line up with our goal of finding a slow, calm, brain-boosting show.
So where does that leave us parents? It feels like a total mess, right? The advice says one thing, the science says another, and the industry is playing a completely different game. But the answer isn't to just throw the TV out the window. The answer is to get smarter, to be way more intentional about how we do screen time.
So the new strategy is less about that impossible hunt for the perfect show and more about creating a healthy relationship with screens in general. Yeah, it starts with setting hard limits on time. But the really important stuff, it's watching with them. It's talking about the story and the characters, asking them what they think, and of course, making sure that real life, playing outside, drawing, reading a book, always comes first.
Look, at the end of the day, what the science and the business really show us is that the hunt for that single, perfect, totally guilt-free cartoon, it's probably a wild goose chase. The real win isn't finding the perfect show, it's creating the perfect approach. An approach that's all about limits, about sharing the experience, and about talking it through. It's about making screen time active, not passive. So the question I'll leave you with is, how are you going to watch differently from now on?